Well, good morning. We are in chapter 22 of Sefer Yehoshua, and we starting now the last part of the book, right? We have the first part is the wars, the second part is dividing the country, and the third part is after dividing the country. Even though there is a little bit of still the inheritance of the country in the beginning of chapter 22, it starts like a new thing. So it starts, the chapter starts, then Yehoshua summoned, called the Reuvenim, the Gadim, and the half tribe of Menashe. So if you remember, these three tribes received their inheritance in the other part of the other side of the Yarden, in the oriental part of the Yarden, right? So he says them the next, and say to them, well, before reading what he said to them, I just say, he will tell them now, go back to your land. And this is unusual, because what we saw until now, that people were demanding Yehoshua the part in the land of Israel, not the other way. We saw that Caleb and Yefuneh asked him his part as was promised. The tribe of Levi asked his part, and Yehoshua himself asked from Am Israel some part. This is the first time that Yehoshua tells them, you should go now to your land. It's okay, you finished your job, you can go now to your land. Why Yehoshua had to say that? Didn't they want to go back home? They were fighting for 14 years, fighting 7 years and being another 7 years. Didn't they want to go back to the families? I think that we are going to see that they had developed during this year a very close connection to Yehoshua bin Nun himself, and they didn't want to leave him. We can see that from the words of Yehoshua himself, and it's also according to Chachamim, they learned from some verses that it was like very hard goodbye, right? It's very hard saying goodbye, because they said, for example, that they asked to leave, Yehoshua let them leave. After 2 days, they asked again. And then they said that Yehoshua went with them, like accompanied them, until they arrived to the Yarden. And then he wanted to tell them, okay, you can continue, go home. And then they saw, but who's going to be going back with you home? If there are no many people with you, you are the king, we should go with you home. So everybody went back to the home of Yehoshua. And then Yehoshua again went to, well, so now I have to go with you again. So they did that, and then like it was hard to say goodbye. That's what I'm trying to say, according to the Midrashim. And that's the reason they don't say anything, they just wait. And Yehoshua is the one who's calling them and tells them, you already done your obligations, and now you can go back home. Do you remember the obligations of Reuven, Gad, and Chatzi Menashe? They asked the part in the other side of the Yarden. Moshe told them, if you want this part, you must go first to fight with Am Israel in the occidental part of the Yarden, and only after that you can go back home. And you not only have to go with them, you should be the first in the line. So they were the first in all the battles. They were the first to fight, and only after finishing all of that, they allow themselves go back home. Anyway, so Yehoshua is calling and telling them the following. And he said to them, you have observed all that Moshe, the servant of Hashem, commanded you, and have obeyed me in everything that I commanded you. Oh, wait a second. You have not forsaken meaning abandoned. You haven't abandoned your kindred meaning kindred, brothers. Right? You haven't abandoned your, I will translate in my level. This is 200 words for me. You have not abandoned your brothers through the long years down to these days, but have faithfully observed the instruction of the eternal your God. So Abarbanel says that actually there are 4 different things here in these 2 verses. 4 different things that Yehoshua prays these 2 tribes and a half. First of all, you fulfilled what you promised to Moshe, right? You observed all the Moshe, the servant of Hashem, commanded you. This is a general commitment to go and conquer the land of Israel. And then the second one, and you obeyed me in everything that I commanded you. Meaning, there is a general commitment or general willingness to do what is needed to do, and then there is following every single order. It's not the same thing. You can say, well, generally I will do what I promised, but they didn't promise, even though it's maybe clearly they should have, but they didn't promise to do everything that Yehoshua said. Yehoshua said, not only you fulfilled the general commitment to Moshe Rabbeinu, you also obeyed to me in everything that I ordered you. So you were very loyal to me personally, not the general commitment. And then not only with me, also with your brothers, your kindred. Yeah? So you have not abandoned your brothers through the long years down to this day, meaning not only commitment to Moshe, not only commitment to Yehoshua, commitment to all Am Israel. Right? It was like you could have gone home after the war, but you stayed with her in all the times that we divided the land, etc., etc. So it's like more again than the obligation, than the commitment. And then in the end, but have faithfully observed, it doesn't say in Hebrew, but, say and, ushmartem, and have faithfully observed the instruction of the eternal your God. So you can say you were faithful, you were loyal to Moshe, to me, to your siblings, to your brothers, and to Hashem. Right? It's 4 different things that they did very, very nice. Now, the eternal your God has given your kindred rest, as Hashem promised them. Therefore, turn and go to your homes, to the land of your holdings beyond the Yarden, that Moshe, the servant of Hashem, assigned to you. Okay, so like I said before, they didn't ask that. They are 14 years outside their home. They didn't ask to go visit their families. And only now Yehoshua said, after Hashem completed all what he promised, now you can go back to what Moshe promised you in the other side of the Yarden. And then there's another point here that may be important. It was important to that happen after the eastern side of the Yarden. I want to mention something that is later in the Tanakh, in the days of Yehoshua, of David HaMelech. There are some parts in the land of Israel that called Syria, what we today call Syria. But it's not exactly Syria. The halachic definition of Syria, it's not the country, which is Syria today. The halachic definition of Syria, whenever you see Syria in the Talmud, in the Halacha, etc., it refers to parts of the land that David HaMelech conquered, and they have a mid-level of holiness. It's not exactly like the land of Israel. It's a lower level of holiness, but it's not like the other countries in other parts of the world. It's mainly in the north side of Israel. That's why it's called Syria, but it's not necessarily there. So what is this level? How it was created? So from one side, Chachamim say that HaKadosh Baruch Hu said that every place that you will take, it will be yours, meaning it will become the land of Israel. So this part that David took should have become like this exact land of Israel, but they didn't. Why? The answer of the Talmud is that David HaMelech didn't finish to take all the land of Israel before taking other lands. You cannot change the priority. First of all, you should take all the land of Israel, the promised land of Israel, and then you can start thinking about going to other places. The fact that David HaMelech didn't do that in the right order, meaning first the land of Israel and then other place, caused that these other places that he took won't have the same level of holiness. That's what we see that Yehoshua, you did correctly. You go to your lands only after all the rest of the land of Israel is divided between the tribes. So that's why I tell him, now, after we finish, after all your brother, your kindred had the rest, heard the part, then turn and go to your homes. Okay, but he gives them a warning. But be very careful to fulfill the instruction of the teachings that Moshe, the servant of Hashem, enjoined upon you. Enjoined, commanded, right? Mm-hmm. Enjoined upon you. And then he gives them orders that like Moshe told. The question is when Moshe said that, right? Let's see what he said. He says, to love the eternal your God, to walk in godly ways, to keep the commandments, and to hold fast to God, and to render service with all your hearts and soul. Let's read that in Hebrew. לאהבה את השם אלוהיכם, וללכת בכל דרכיו, ולשמור מצוותיו, ולדבקה בו, ולעובדו בכל לבבכם ובכל נפשכם. Do you recognize this word? Well, part of this we say in Shema Israel, right? ואהבת את השם אלוקיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך. And ללכת בכל דרכיו, it's mentioned. So throughout Sefer Dvarim, there are many mentions of the same wording even, the same very, very similar wording to what is written here. But I think that if we look for a specific place that this is mentioned, it's a verse in Parashat Ekev that in Mesilat Yesharim, he mentions this verse. You remember, well, we learned Mesilat Yesharim on Shabbat after the Kiddush, and there in the introduction, Mesilat Yesharim says that all the service of Hashem is based on a verse in two verses in Sefer Dvarim. And it says, the verses are saying like that. I will read that in Hebrew and you see that it's very similar. ואתה ישראל, מה השם אלוקיך שואל מעמך? כי אם ליראה את השם אלוקיך, ללכת בכל דרכיו, לאהבה אותו, ולעבוד את השם אלוקיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך, לשמור את מידות השם ואת חוקותיו. So you can see it's almost the same. There are one big difference. First of all, here it says, לאהבה את השם אלוקיכם, and it say, to love Hashem, and here it says, לאהבה אותו, to love Hashem. ללכת בכל דרכיו, to walk in his, it says here, to walk in his ways, and here it says, ללכת בכל דרכיו, the same exact words. And they say, לשמור מצוותיו, and here it says, ולשמור את מצוות השם ואת חוקותיו. ולדבקה בו, this doesn't, it's not appeared, it's not written in Parashat Ekev. ולעובדו בכל לבבכם ובכל נפשכם, it says, ולעבוד את השם אלוקיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך. So this is a big difference. לדבקה is here and it's not in Dvarim. From the other side, in Dvarim we have ליראת Hashem, to fear from Hashem, and here it doesn't say so. So there are four things that are the same and one thing that is different. Right? That is, in Sefer Dvarim it says יראת Hashem, meaning fear from Hashem, and here it speaks about לדבקה בו. It says hold fast. Not exactly what hold fast. Here it's translated dvekut. It's translated as cleaving to the eternal. Cleaving to the eternal. So what are these five things? According to Mesilat Yesharim, again, there are five parts of the things that a man should do in this world in order to fulfill his obligation to Hashem. And they are in this verse. Ira, I will leave Ira, meaning fear from Hashem. And then, Alicha bidrachav, to walk in the ways of Hashem. What does it mean to walk in the ways of Hashem? It speaks about midot. Midot meaning character, behavior, traits, meaning not halachic specific things. So how generally you should be. What is your general character should be? For example, Hashem is generous, you should be generous. Hashem is merciful, you should be merciful. Ma'u rachum, afata rachum. Ma'u chanun, afata rachum. That's what Chachamim explain this way. It doesn't speak about specific action, it speaks about general attitude to life. You should try to be as similar to Hashem as possible. And it speaks about your character. You should work on your character in order to improve it. So this is ללכת בדרכיו. Ahava, right? Well, we can understand literally love, but meaning you want to make your best in order to satisfy him. When you love someone, when you really love someone, you want to do your best in order to make him happy. So, le'ahava, ahavat Hashem, meaning making the best effort to make Hashem happy. Okay, and it's related to Chassidut. We talked about this week when we talked about Chassid, right? In between Chai and Arvit. Anyway, this is אהבת השם. They said, לאהבה את השם, ללכת בכל דרכיו, לשמור מצוותיו, literally, to keep all the mitzvot, to make all the mitzvot, and not to make עבירות, and לעובדו בכל לבבכם ובכל נפשכם, meaning that the work would be with all your heart, meaning you can do something because you are obligated, because you are used to, because you want people to see that you are doing something. There can be many other reasons why to do things. And there are a way of doing things with all your heart, meaning you really want to do that. You are really dedicated to that. So it's not the action itself, it's the form or the feeling that comes with the action. So these are the four parts of Avodat Hashem, right? Love, making the mitzvot, do it with all your hearts, and improving your character. The fifth one, Irat Hashem, meaning to fear of Hashem. There are different levels of fearness of Hashem, of Irat Shamayim. We won't talk about it right now. The question is why Yehoshua didn't say that. Moshe Rabbeinu said that, and Yehoshua didn't say that. Why? I don't have a good answer, and I just want to say that the connection between these two verses, the verse in Yehoshua and the Sefer and the verse in Ekev, I didn't see that written. I just thought it just immediately reminded me this verse. So maybe it's just my invention, but I do think that it's when it says what Moshe Rabbeinu ordered you, I think that Yehoshua referred to this verse. So why did he change it if it's correct? So I think that Irat Hashem, fear of Hashem, like we saw in the former verses, they already proved they have this Irat Shamayim. They already proved they are doing things out of respect to Hashem, to Moshe, to Yehoshua. So he didn't feel that he have to order them that. Right. So this is maybe this other the answer. And then he added le dovka bo. What is dovka? Cleaved dvekut, cleaved in Hashem. Again, if we are going in the way of Mesilat Yesharim, he explains that. He says that dvekut is when you, I will read these words. If he will be violent and wins a total victory in this war, meaning the war of this world, the war against Yetzer Hara, against all the things that seduce person to leave Hashem. So if he wins this war, he will have perfected himself and will be able to cleave to his creator. Meaning the cleaving, the dvekut to the creator is a result of winning the war. So we can say that Yehoshua tells them not only what they have to do, but what is the result of that? The result will be that you will be cleaved to Hashem, that you will be close to Hashem. Okay, so this is about this verse. And then Yehoshua blessed them and dismissed them, and they went to their homes. So the fact that he said the verse says twice that Yehoshua dismissed them, one in the fourth verse, and here in the sixth verse, that's the reason Chachamim say that they went again. I mean, they went to the river, they went back, and then they went again. Right? It was like very hard. How do you say preda, goodbye, saying goodbye? There's a word for saying goodbye, only saying goodbye. When you farewell? Yeah. Okay, so that was a hard farewell. Yeah, you can say that? Okay. And then it says, and to the half tribe of Menashe, Moshe had assigned territory in the Bashan, and to the other, Yehoshua assigned territory on the west side of the Yarden with their kindred. Meaning the tribe of Menashe was divided for two, half in the other side and half in the first side. Again, it looks like Menashe is different from the two tribes. We mentioned it several times. It looks like Menashe is not with Gad and Reuven. Gad and Reuven were the first that was asking Moshe Rabbeinu part in the other land of the Yarden. Menashe didn't ask it. And Moshe told them, go there with the other two tribes. So it looks like they were different. They were more dedicated to their properties or possessions, and Menashe was more connected to the land of Israel. So Moshe Rabbeinu decided to put him in the other side in order to keep this connection. And we see that this connection between these tribes and the other tribes is going to be a question here in this chapter later. And then, furthermore, when Yehoshua sent the 2.5 tribes off to their homes, he blessed them. Oh, here is the second time it says that it sends them. Shilchem Yehoshua Elohim vayvarechem. And in the translation, it had the 2 tribes and the half. It's in Hebrew, it doesn't read them. So the Mefarshim, some things it speak here only about the tribe of Menashe, and others say it speak about all the 3 tribes. Anyway, I don't want to speak about it because it's not so. There are some details related to that, but let's continue. And then it say to them, return to your homes with great wealth, with very much livestock, and silver, and gold, with copper and iron, and with a great quantity of clothing. Share the spoil of your enemies with your kin. So again, it's not clear, are you speaking here to the 3 tribes or only the 1 tribe? Anyway, what we can see is that after you are fulfilling your duty to Am Israel, to Hashem, being rich, it's not a bad thing. If someone was worried about it, right? So it's okay to be rich. And he told them, yeah, you were so worried about your properties, your possession, and you wanted to stay there, and Moshe Rabbeinu was very upset with that. It's not upset because you are worried about your property. It's upset because of your priorities. once you put the priorities in the right order, first, service of Hashem, second, relationship with Am Israel or connection with Am Israel, uniting with Am Israel, and then the property, so that's great, and go up with all this wealth, with all your livestock and silver and gold, etc., etc. It's not bad for itself. Okay, so this is the conclusion. So now we are going to
community outside of Israel.
So, like I said before, once the land of Israel was in the hands of Am Israel, this other part was also sanctified. Ever Yarden also received almost the same holiness as the land of Israel because it's in the right order. Right? First, the occidental part of the Yarden, and then the oriental, and then you can also amplify to other places, depends on the situation. Okay, anyway, now we are going to see an interesting story, which maybe point on the main problems that we are going to face in Sefer Shoftim. We can see that many of the problems that we're going to see in Sefer Shoftim started actually in Sefer Yehoshua. In Sefer Yehoshua, it was already under control, we say. But after that, it developed to the main problems of Am Israel for many, many, many years, I could say many centuries. And we already saw one of them. The one that you already spoke about is the fact that they didn't finish to take all the land of Israel. That they left some of the nations inside the land of Israel that weren't under them or they weren't controlled all the land of Israel. This was the first problem that was going to affect all the rest, all the Sefer Shoftim, and even later. And now we are going to see another two of the problems, at least two problems that started in this chapter. So it says, so the Bnei Reuven and Bnei Gad and Chatzi Shevet Menashe left the Israelim, the Bnei Israel, at Shiloh in the land of Canaan and made the way back to the land of Gilad, the land of the holding, which they had acquired by Hashem command through Moshe. So first of all, it's mentioned here Shiloh. Do you remember where is Shiloh? What is the meaning of Shiloh?
Mishkan.
Yes, the Mishkan was there, but we are speaking here on the second stage. In the first stage, it was in the Gilgal during all the time of conquering the land of Israel, and then they moved to Shiloh. So Shiloh is going to be the Mishkan for the next about, I don't know, remember 300 years, something like that. This one will be like the capital of Israel, where the Mishkan is. So they left Shiloh and then moved to the other side of the Yarden. Another important thing, Shiloh is considered the permanent place of the Mishkan, not the temporal. And the consequence of that, at least according to some of the opinions, is that it's not allowed anymore to make sacrifice in other places. Until this moment, it was allowed to make sacrifice all over the land of Israel. Since we have Shiloh and the temple, the tabernacle arrived to Shiloh, it's not allowed to make sacrifice in other places of the land of Israel. So what are they doing? When they came to the region of the Yarden in the land of Canaan, the Bnei Reuven, Bnei Gad, and half tribe of Menashe built an altar there by the Yarden, a great conspicuous, how do you read this word? Conspicuous altar. I mean, it can be seen for distance. Oh. Conspicuous. Well seen altar. Okay, well seen altar. But like I said before, why are you building an altar? It's not allowed, at least according to some of the opinions, to make sacrifice in other parts. Another question, where did they build it? In the eastern side or in the western side? It's western.
You don't say nothing. You said
it says, בארץ כנען. ויבוא אל גלילות הירדן אשר בארץ כנען. The region of the Yarden is a river, the border between, and it says בארץ כנען, in the land of Canaan. It looks like in the western side of the Yarden, not in the eastern side, not in their part. In the part that is inside the land of Israel. And then it was a very big one, well-seen altar. So a report reached the Israelim. What the report says, actually in Hebrew it says, Vayishmeu Bnei Israel. Bnei Israel heard. Who is Bnei Israel? Yehoshua heard? From now until the end of the chapter, the name Yehoshua is not mentioned. All the stories that we are going to see, almost the first fight inside Am Israel. You know, in Sefer Shoftim, we have at least 2 fights in the land of Israel, between tribes in Am Israel. In Sefer Shmuel, we have another. So this is the almost first fight, the almost first fight inside Am Israel. So Am Israel, but Yehoshua is not mentioned. And it says, so report reaches the Israelim. What the report says? The Bnei Reuven, Bnei Gad, and the half tribe of Menashe have built an altar opposite to the land of Canaan. It doesn't say opposite, it says Mul Eretz Canaan. Mul can be close. So in this verse, it may seem that it's in the other side of the Jordan. It's not very clear if it's this side or this side. Anyway, they did an altar in the region of the Jordan across from the Israelim. El Ever Bnei Israel. Vayishmeu Bnei Israel. Again, it says the same word. They didn't they already heard in the first, in the former verse? Look on the verse 11 and 12. Verse 11 says, Vayishmeu Bnei Israel. The 12 says, Vayishmeu Bnei Israel. Why twice? They heard twice. We're going to see that all the story, always it had mentioned like 2 aspects. There are 2 aspects of this story, of this problem. So what they heard here is that they built the altar. They heard that. When the Israelim heard this, the whole community of the Israelim assembled at Shiloh to make war on them. So fast to make war. They just heard, yeah, let's go kill everybody. So it looks like they didn't went directly to a war. They were gathering in order that if there's going to be a need in a war, then they're going to be ready for that. But it was so severe, this altar, that they thought that maybe we're going to need a war. Why it's so bad? Why? It's just build an altar. Okay, so someone is not keeping Shabbat, so let's go a war against his tribe. Someone spoke Lashon Hara, didn't say Alev Yavon Rosh Chodesh. Okay, so let's go for a fight against his tribe. Right? So, isn't it the overreaction? Overreaction. It looks like it was something crucial here, very important. It's not just like, well, they did something wrong. They were ready to go for a war. Another maybe comment, if you see that there's going to be a need in a war, you maybe want to prepare on time, not after being attacked or after having the problem. You should be ready on time. Okay. Anyway, but a good thing that they didn't went to a war directly. They sent a group of people, how do you say, caravan and messengers, emissary of people to try to clear up what's going on. And this is important. And we're going to see that they were wrong in all what they thought. But many times we are so upset. We heard that someone did something and we are so upset and that's it. And we start criticize immediately. And when we don't do the basic thing of asking, of speaking, communication, right? It looks like miscommunication. They heard something, they understood something, what they understood was wrong, and after that, they start speaking. And that's a good thing that they start speaking, but maybe you should have started speaking before getting upset. Anyway, they send, it says, but first the Israelim send the priest Pinchas, son of Elazar. Why him? We have 2 leaders in this moment. We have Yehoshua bin Nun, like I said before, it's not mentioned here. And we have, who is the priest, the highest priest in this moment? Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen, the father of Pinchas. They didn't send the father, they sent the son. Why?
Maybe because Pinchas do the...
Why? We're going to see relationship to the story of Pinchas. You remember the story of Pinchas? It was in the same place. Yeah, in the other side of the Jordan. It was in the same place. Was the sin of the Shittim that we're going to mention soon. Anyway, they sent Pinchas. Okay, so the Israelim first sent the priest Pinchas, son of Elazar, to the Reuvenim, the Gadim, the half of Menashe, in the land of Gilad, accompanied by 10 chieftains, 1 chieftains from each of the tribal families of Israel. So if you calculate, how do we have, if we have 3 tribes in the other side of the Jordan, how do we have still 10 tribes in this side of the Jordan? Because Menashe is counting both of them. So Menashe also sent someone and was going to go for a war against the other half tribe. It's not was only 10 against 2 tribes. It was 10 and a half against 2 and the other half. Okay, so you understand how serious it was. So they send one, Pinchas ben Elazar Cohen, and second, 10 representatives, right?
Why did Pinchas and another one tribe of Levi?
No, it wasn't another. We have 12 tribes besides of Levi, because we have Ephraim and Menashe. Right. So we can say that Pinchas represents Shevet Levi, but it's not, because it not say, well, 11 presidents of tribes. No, it said 10 tribes and Pinchas, who is Cohen. He's not mentioned as Levi, he's mentioned as Cohen. Anyway, every one of them, a family head among the contingents of Israel. Contingents of Israel. Contingents. Many people of Israel, right? Alfei Israel. When they came to Bnei Reuven, Bnei Gad, and half tribe of Menashe in the land of Gilad, so they went to them. They didn't invite them. They sent the emissary to their land. They spoke to them as follows. Thus said all of God's community. Who is the God's community? The 10 tribes. You are not the God's community right now, according to what we suspect. What is this treachery that you have committed this day against the God of Israel, turning away from God, building yourself an altar and rebelling this day against God? So what we can understand, the problem was, they saw that the fact that they're building an altar is a rebel against God, right? So what? We have one temple in Shiloh, and when you're doing another temple, you are saying, like the other nations, we have many gods, not only one God. So they suspect them in Avodah Zarah. Rashi said they suspected them in making a korban not in the right place. It's not looked like strong enough in order to justify all of that. Or that this is the first step of after that. They say, now you are saying it's for God, but tomorrow you're going to do to the other gods. Okay. So idolatry, right? So they are suspecting them of separate themselves from Am Israel and establishing a new religion. So one can answer, so what is your problem? It's our problem. No, they said, no, it's you are impurify the rest of us. And this is what they mention. In the sin of Peor, which brought a plague upon God's community, such a small things to us, we have not purified ourselves from it to this very day. Right? So they mention here first the sin of Peor. So I just remind you, the sin of Peor, after the story that Balak and Bilam tried to curse Am Israel, it didn't work. Bilam said to Balak, send your women, your daughters, and they will seduce Am Israel, and then they will go after the idolatry of Baal Peor. This is the name of Baal Peor, is the name of the idolatry. This is Avon Peor. It says here, the sin of Peor, right? And then it's happened, and Am Yisrael started to go after Peor, and then Pinchas himself was the one who killed the head of the family of the tribe of Shimon, right? And stopped all of that. And they said, you really didn't purify. We still not clean, totally clean from this sin. So when you are doing the sin of idolatry, it's not only you, it would affect all of us. So we also affected from that, and you don't want that to happen. So that's the reason we are so upset. And they said, and now you will turn away from God. If you rebel against God today, tomorrow the divine wrath will be directed at the whole community of Israel. So this is the first time, not the first time, the second time actually, that we see the principle of responsibility, of mutual responsibility, ערבות הדדית, right? כל ישראל ערבים זה לזה. It's not that I'm doing it to myself, it's not your business. No, when we're doing something, we affect each other because we are one people. And then they said, let's see another verse. If it is because the land of your holding is impure, cross over into the land of God's own holding, where the tabernacle of God abides, and acquire holding among us. But do not rebel against God, and do not rebel against us by building for yourself an altar other than the altar of the eternal our God. So now the emissary, like assuming maybe one of the reasons. Why is it happening that so fast you started to go after idolatry? Maybe the impurity of the land affects you. If the land is impure for you, and that's the reason you so fast go after the idolatry, go back to the land of Israel. What we can see is that from this assumption is that we assume that the land of Israel, holiness of the land of Israel, makes you closer to Hashem. So when you are outside the land of Israel, the impurity of the land affects also your spiritual level. So they say, if the reason for your sin, for already abandoning Hashem, is because you are in this side of the Jordan, we will give you space in this side. Even though we already divided the land and everybody got his part, we will find your space. Don't go there and abandon us. I mean, abandon the real faith. And then they said another thing. This is important. They said, don't rebel against God and do not rebel against us. So the sin is not only against God, is also against us. We say when you are establishing a new religion, when you are separating yourself from Am Israel, it's not only that you are doing idolatry, that you are tearing apart Am Israel. And this is maybe not less important sin, or maybe even more important sin. So even if Am Israel making idolatry and they are united, there is a chance that everybody finally will stay together and continue and make tshuva. But if you are separating Am Israel for two nations, this is one of the worst things that you can do. Right? There is a famous midrash that says, Chavur atzabim Ephraim anachlo. Meaning, the midrash says that in the days of David HaMelech, everybody was doing everything needed in the Torah, but still, when they went to a war, they won the war, but some of them has died. But, right? As naturally, right? But in the days of Achav was one of the worst kings of Am Israel. They went to a war, and everybody went back together. Nobody was hurted. Even though this generation was one of the worst, they were full of idolatry, etc. So what's the difference? Chachamim say, Chavur atzabim, they are united around the idolatry, leave him alone. The prophets say, Ephraim is a leader of Am Israel, was Ephraim, is united around Avodah Zarah, around the idolatry. Even though Hashem say, Anachlo, I will leave him. I won't punish them in that moment. Right? So when you are united, even when you are doing idolatry, it's forgivable for a while, at least for a while. After that, it's not going to be all forever, but for a while, the united keep Am Israel or protect Am Israel. Now they said, you not only rebelled against Hashem, you rebelled against us, and you are separating yourself from us, and this is the worst thing that can happen. Right? So there are two, like they said before, Vayishmeru Israel, twice. There are two arguments. And then the first example of the past was from the sin of the Shittim, where the problem was idolatry. And then they give another example. When Achan, son of Zerach, violated the proscription, remember this story? In the beginning of the Sefer, of the book. When they went to the war, Achan stole part of the chapter. Yeah, no, it was chapter 4.
Oh,
At least, yeah, chapter 4. So, and what the result was, anger struck the whole community of Israel, not only him. If we are talking about Baal Peor, the sin of Peor, we can see that they were punished only the people that did that. Only them were punished, 24,000 people. But in the case of Achan, we can learn that if someone is making a sin, everybody is paying for that. Right? Anger struck the whole community of Israel. He was not the only one who perished for that sin. So here are the arguments, and here is why it's so severe. You abandon Hashem, you abandon us, and we cannot accept that. You will be with us in the good way or in the bad way, right? We are going to make a war and obligate you to stay part of Am Israel and obligate you to stay part of the faith of Israel. So what would be the answer for that? Bnei Reuven, Bnei Gad, and the half tribe of Menashe replied to the heads of the, I just want to mention, that's also the reason for the two parts of the emissary. Pinchas represents the rebel against Hashem, and the 10 tribes represent the rebel against Am Israel. Right? They could have sent Pinchas alone, or they could have sent the 10 heads of the tribe. They sent these two parts. The part of the relationship with Hashem and the part of the relationship with all Am Israel. So what will be the answer? God, the eternal God. God, the eternal God. Many times God here. Surely knows, and Israel too shall know. So as I said, Hashem already know the truth. And you, the rest of Am Israel, also shall know, will know. הוא יודע, וישראל הוא ידע. If we act in rebellion or in treachery against God, do not vindicate us this day. So if it's happened to us, like it's cursing yourself. If I did that, I would be perished or something like that. So first of all, this term, El Elokim Hashem. Some of the Mefarshim says, the God of the gods, that is Hashem. And some say, no, it's three different names of Hashem. They are so offended, insulted by these accusations, or so touched by these accusations, that they, like, it's a form of making a swear. I swear in God, but not only one phrase of God, all aspects of God. El, Elokim, Hashem, there are different aspects, different name of Hashem that reflects different aspects of Hashem. They like swear in all the name of Hashem that they knew, not because they thought there are different gods, but because they want like to make it very clear and firm that they didn't rebel against Hashem, not against Hashem, and not against Am Israel. So if this is that what we did, right? If we built an altar to turn away from God, if it was to offer burnt offerings or grain offering upon it, or to present sacrifice of well-being upon it, may God be the one to demand a reckoning. Meaning, if we did that, may Hashem punish us, right? It's not the reason. And what about the second problem? Are you going to make a separate temple to Hashem? You know, once in the history, there was two temples. One in one in Cairo, in Egypt. Mikdash Choni, yeah. So you suspected us that we rebelled against Hashem. That's for sure we didn't do. More than that, we didn't do this altar to make sacrifice of it, on it. This altar is not to sacrifice. It has other purpose, like we're going to see. And the reason, what you said about separating from Am Israel, this is exactly the reason we did this altar. We did this thing only out of our concern that in time to come, your children may say to our children, what have you to do with the eternal, the God of Israel? God has made the Yarden a boundary between you and us, or Reuvanim and Gadim, you have no share of God. Thus your children may prevent our children from worshiping God. So we decided to provide a witness for ourselves by building an altar not for burnt offering or other sacrifice, but as a witness between you and us and between the generation to come, that we may perform the service of God at Shiloh with our burnt offering, our sacrifice, and our offerings as well-beings, and that your children should not say to our children in time to come, you have no share in God. So we reasoned, should they speak those to us and to our children in time to come, we would reply, see the replica of God's altar, which our fathers made, not for burnt offering or sacrifice, but as a witness between you and us. Far be it from us to rebel against God or to turn away this day from God and build an altar for burnt offering, gain offering, and sacrifice other than the altar of the eternal our God that stands before the tabernacle. So what is actually the answer? This altar came as a witness in order exactly to avoid the separation between you and us, to avoid the separation and to avoid that we may say that you are not part of Am Israel and not part of the service of God of Am Israel. So the purpose of this altar is totally the opposite of what you were worried about. So what we learn from that, it's important to communicate before accusing. Right? Ask what you did. So I think that it's still a question. Who ordered you to build this altar? I mean, it was something, I mean, the reason for suspecting was good enough. It wasn't in the air. They did something that is not written in the Torah. They weren't ordered from Yehoshua, nor from Elazar. They just decided to do something. It may seem strange. Good thing that we talked about it. We talked it over, right? But the way they act was a little bit of a problem of not clarifying their intentions. But in the end, this was clarifying what's happened, right? That this altar came to avoid the separation and to avoid Am Yisrael to say to them, "You are not part of Avodat Hashem. You are not part of what we are doing in the Mizbeach, in the temple." So, is it a good answer? Yes. When the priest Pinchas and the chief trains of the community, the heads of the contingent of Israel, who were with him, heard the explanation given by the Reuvenim, the Gadim, and the Menashim, they approved. The priest Pinchas, son of Elazar, said to the Bnei Reuven, Bnei Gad, and Menashe, "Now we know that Hashem is in our midst. Since you have not committed such treachery against Hashem, you have indeed saved the Israelim for punishment by God." And the priest Pinchas, of the son of Elazar, and the chieftains returned from the Reuvenim, the Gadim, and in the land of Gilad to the Israelim in the land of Canaan, and gave them their report. I won't enter to that right now. Just you can notice that sometimes Menashe is mentioned, sometimes it's not mentioned. It's not totally in the story. Okay, so they returned from the Reuvenim, from the Gilad to the Israelim in the land of Canaan, and gave them their report. The Israelim were pleased, and the Israelim praised God, and they spoke no more of going to war against them, to ravage the land in which the Reuvenim and the Gadim dwelt. The Reuvenim and the Gadim named the altar witness, meaning it is witness between us and them, then the eternal, that the eternal is our God. Okay, so now we almost finished. Just two things very, very fast that I want to mention. First of all, I ask, where is Yehoshua here? Where is Elazar? There are two possible answers. First of all, like I said before, the connection between Yehoshua and this tribe was very strong. They were around him all these 14 years. They were the first line. They were obeying everything he did. If you remember in the first chapter, when he talked to them, he said, they told him, anyone that's going against you, we are going to kill him. So maybe he felt that he's too connected to them. Or for the other side, he didn't believe that there is a problem. So he didn't want to intervene. He didn't say, I don't think that anything is wrong here. Go and resolve the problem by yourself. This is maybe one explanation. The second explanation maybe is this first sign of the weakness in the central leadership of Am Yisrael. Like we said before, one of the main problems of the times of the Shoftim, as it mentioned in Sefer Shoftim several times, there's no king. There's no united leadership, each tribe for himself. Here we see this first weakness. Yehoshua is not unite everyone around him. Pinchas go like as representative of the religion. Each tribe serve is who is the leader? Who is the one who is heading? Not as a religious leader, as a political leader, as a civil leader. There's no leader here, right? There's no one like Yehoshua. Each tribe sends his own people, his own. And when you can see also, like I said before, almost war inside Am Yisrael and the separation. 2 tribes against the rest of the 10 tribes against the 2 tribes. This is one of the main problems of Sefer Shoftim. Each tribe for itself. These 2 problems related to each other. We don't have leadership, so each one is for himself, right? 2 things are connected, right? But this, you can say, this was resolved. Everybody is happy. Everybody is okay with each other. But the seed of the problem is already planted, right? The root of the problem is already inside Am Yisrael, and that we will see B'ezrat Hashem very soon when we start Sefer Shoftim. Any question or comments? No. Okay, thank you. Have a nice day.